Hi, hello everyone, welcome in. We are chatting Canada Season 5, Episode 2. This is called Greetings, Queenlings. Canada's Drag Race loves to do this futuristic thing. We saw it last season in Canada vs. the World Season 2, and we're seeing it again here where they are leaning into aliens are among us, the future is now. It's fascinating. This week, the Golden Beaver is back and she's got her versus the world makeover, honey. It's already set up at the top of the episode that last week, the person that would have been saved would have resulted in Tara and Tiffany having to lip sync against each other. So that's already teed up from the top of the episode, and we end up getting a fulfilling, rewarding story at the end of the episode with that happening. It was satisfying in my opinion as a viewer. And I'm sure for production, they were probably just cranking knowing that they got their TV moment. Our main challenge is an acting challenge, and I actually really enjoyed the idea that was behind this, certainly more than the acting improv challenge that happened in Thailand last week. They have to create instructional videos, how-tos for aliens who might not know what life on Earth is like. In my opinion, this could have been a really fun, old Mickey Mouse cartoon, almost type of vibe where you say, "Hey alien folks, here's what we do here on Earth." I think there were some really great concepts and there were some other really bad ones. Thankfully, we only had 3 groups, and that made it significantly less cringe than if they had maybe 4 groups. I do wish that maybe they had waited next week or the week after, just so that it could have been 3 groups of 3? I can't math. However many weeks it would have needed to be 3 groups of 3. And the nice thing that they did is that they gave the bottom 3 from last week, Tara, Tiffany, and Perla, the ability to choose their teams and thusly get saddled with a pre-picked category, which they could do whatever they wanted with, so it felt a little bit less like production was trying to meddle in things. And I always like that about Canada's Drag Race. It feels like if they are doing anything meddlesome, it's really hard to spot. Tara picks Uma, Xana, and Sanjina. Initially, I kind of thought that maybe this wouldn't be the strongest group. Sanjina seems like she's got a lot of personality. Xana seems like someone who is a strong personality, and Uma is someone who's got a big personality. So I would assume that these 2 big personalities would sort of be clashing with each other and maybe make it a little bit difficult for anybody else to be able to find their spotlight. As we've seen so many times in Drag Race, where when you have 2 big domineering personalities, it's really hard for them to find common ground to figure out what to do in the challenge. They received the category of family. And to be honest, I think their bit of, this is a family, that's not a family, I think there was a lot of moments in there. Maybe if they had narrowed it down to just a couple less ideas, doing a little more of the nuclear family, and then showing something that's completely different. Maple syrup, mousses, Justin Trudeau. I think there could have been a lot more jokes that they could have really leaned into to make it not just about what is family, what is not, but also maybe lean into the Canada stuff and maybe even poke fun at like Brooke, because maybe it could have been fun if they had said, "That's not family. That's a runner-up from season 11. I feel like there was a lot more they could have done. Tiffany picks Jaylene, Virgo, and Michaela, who was shockingly the last one picked. I don't understand why Michaela was the last one picked because she just won last week. Her well-known established drag mother on the show is Isis Couture. She clearly has probably been prepped to be here and probably is ready for all these challenges. So why would you not want Michaela on your team first? And this was honestly the strongest team because it had all of the tops from last week. So in the judges' eyes, that could either set a really high bar that they're going to need to get over, or they were just that good for a reason. They received team sexuality, and this had so many possibilities. Doing a PSA to aliens about what sexuality is, they could have leaned so far into being gay, being queer, being trans, being a drag performer, talking about the differences between sexuality and gender, talking about what makes sexuality so fun and so exciting. And again, there were just too many ideas. It was just a lot of words, a lot of talking, and not really any substance. I found myself confused on why we had a heterosexual God is law preacher character that seemed unnecessary. And I feel like it just sort of muddled the message. Like, if you are a drag queen getting to tell aliens about sexuality on Earth, I would want to lean into everybody here is gay. Even the people who don't know they're gay are gay. If you're breathing, it's gay. I don't know, I would have really leaned in on the homosexuality. I feel like the lesbian joke was the funniest one. It's well known that lesbians love to meet each other, fall in love within 12 hours, and then U-Haul after about 48, and then get a dog and move across to Wisconsin. Gays are known to hook up in clubs. Trans people are leading the revolution as far as gaining rights. There were a lot of different routes that this could have gone that the skit just didn't. I was really confused. And I think they could have leaned in harder on some of maybe those stereotypes, and that could have been funny. Because in something like this, you're not trying to be genuine and really advertise to an alien that's out there. It's a drag show, so make it funny, make it drag, make it camp. Jaylene was really the only one in that group that made it watchable. I feel like a lot of it felt kind of unwatchable to me. And then Perla picked Minnie and Helena. And I won't lie, Helena's kind of falling into the back for me. But this week, Helena really shined. I liked their mother advocate angle. I thought it was funny. It felt sort of finger on the pulse of what's going on across the world, where moms are getting together and banning gay stuff, drag shows, books, good hairstyles, all levels of taste. I thought the jokes were well constructed, they had a good visual payoff. This was the strongest group and they absolutely nailed the assignment. It was very much akin to Melinda and Kitten last season working together. They just understood the assignment where nobody else really got it. I do want to give an extra shout out to the pit crew's big ol' booties. Those were some great butts. Lord help me. In the workroom, we had a beautiful moment with Jaylene talking about being a scoop child. And this story was just wild. It's unbelievable that we allowed historically something so horrible like this to happen and for entire cultures to get wiped out based off of fear. Because really at the end of the day, it comes down to fear and bigotry. And I love that Canada is holding space for these conversations. Then Jaylene and Xana have this beautiful moment that honestly brought me to tears. This moment of sharing culture is something that I think a lot of people who are very disconnected from their culture can identify with. Finally meeting someone in your life who is very connected to their culture and is a proxy for you to figure out how to get there alongside of them and to move in the direction that they're at. This cast is amazing. This production crew is incredible for allowing us to see this. And I'm glad that they didn't shy away from some of these hard conversations. If this was a Rue production team, I don't think the dark side of Native American culture would ever be allowed to be aired because Rue does not like preaching at people, and this I think can come across as preachy in the eyes of Americans. I don't see it that way, but I think television shows feel that way. It's why even in the moments where they've talked about Black Lives Matter movements, they kind of shy away from some of the really important issues, where I feel like Canada has always been unafraid to go right for what the issue is and talk about it. Even with trans issues, Drag Race tries to be really sort of surface level and light, frivolous and lighthearted, where Canada really goes for it. So I appreciate that. Brooke in this fringy, chainy, sort of slinky dress was so hot. Brooke never misses. And I really love that Serene was here this week. I think she really appreciates people's culture. I think she really appreciates the messaging, and I think her just being there for what ended up being an incredibly important moment for these Indigenous contestants, I think was really special and memorable and needed. So let's discuss these runways. The category is time and place. What a fun category, first and foremost. Absolutely love what Canada is doing all the time. We have Michaela Couture out first, doing a Caravana Carnival in Toronto. Obsessed with this look. It is so big in scale and in volume. All of the details are immaculate. I love the colors. I love the presentation. This was a knockout. And I think for how weak the challenge was, this definitely scooted Michaela into a safe position. Next out is Tiffany & Co., representing their Vietnamese culture. I liked the idea of this look. I like the headpiece a lot. I like the necklace. There's just something that is not quite fitted about it. and I think it just needed to be tightened a little bit. Next is Jaylene Time, doing a 1950s indigenous look. This was beautiful, and I loved Serane's attention to this. I think this really meant a lot, and I think this will affect so many people positively. Next was the Virgo Queen. Time is romantic era, place is Africa. They specifically talked about reclamation, about bringing a part of their culture that was stolen and removed and allowing it to exist in a place that it was not allowed to be powerful and beautiful. This look meant so much, and it was so beautiful, and we have so much time where we need to make up for that pain and give reparations for what happened. Next is Helena Poison, doing a hell look. To me, this was more alien. I like the idea of this sort of sock hop 1950s in hell. It didn't give me Devil Demon. I think maybe red would have pushed that a little bit more, although maybe red would have conflicted with the latex. Even a blue, I think, would have translated a bit more than the green, which just reads alien to me. Like maybe a very specific kind of blue would have worked. Next is Perla doing a Jack the Ripper look, and I got wet. Lives were changed. This was everything. The look, making it feminine, and including all of those Victorian ruffles and the big scooped up hair, the tight waist, the long stockings and the shoes. Every detail was perfect, even down to incorporating a blood illusion. Perla rightfully won this entire episode. Next was Minnie Wang doing a recreation of Juicebox's entrance look. This was brilliant to me, representing the pork chop queen of Drag Race Canada. And the judges said they didn't quite think that it was representative of her, but something that makes me happy is that Minnie's journey in television started with Drag Race. They love this show. They're a super fan. And Minnie's look was fun to me. Next was Xana working me out. Xana is the fashion girl, obsessed with everything that they're doing. I love this hair. I love this silhouette. I love that it's got this sort of 80s prom vibe with this this chin brace. It reminds me when I was younger, in the early 90s, we were kind of coming off the tail of the teeth braces, where you'd have these big contraption that was meant to help with your dental work and to keep everything in place. And that doesn't really happen anymore. I don't think anybody even knows this, but it brought me to that time. These colors are just chef's kiss. This lilac-y pink with that turquoise. Hot. Next out was Sangina. They were doing a 1950s brothel in Amsterdam. I don't like it, and I don't like the way that it looks. It's really low key for Drag Race. I am totally empathetic that maybe they don't have all of the resources to create the vision that was in their head. This was just really low key. It needed 100 more pieces of fringe. It needed a lot more pizzazz. Next was Terra Nova doing a December 11th Ottawa look. I thought this was kind of cute. I think the sparkly fabric is fun. I think the green intensity is pretty on her skin. I like the hair. She was sort of giving me like Pee Wee Herman goes in drag to go substitute teach. And there was an entire backstory that didn't really translate, but I thought it was a fine look. I understand why it was in the bottom. Next out is Uma doing the year 3025 on the desert. I think this was what Kennedy was trying to do. It was LaFille, I think. This is what they thought they were doing. I think the presentation was crazy. Pulling off their dry skin to eat that as their only sustenance was nuts. But I really like the way that Uma's brain works, and I think this look was interesting. And I mean, the category never said that it had to be a time and a place that existed now. So that outside of the box thinking, brilliant. So for our bottoms, Tiffany is there. She's praised for her look and is told that she just didn't have a strong team. And sometimes being the team captain can really bite you in the butt, and this was a scenario where it did. Xana is also in the bottom and starts her critique with a monologue. They cut and overlay and make it seem like that monologue went on for at least 10 minutes. She is such a main character, and I live for her. She's told that she was unmemorable and that she needs to showcase her brand better. And I think Xana is someone who appears like she's got a strong brand. She seems like someone who is tapped in on what her fashion looks like. She is someone who mixes prints and mixes concepts and brings them to a well-executed place. She's got this severe mug that looks like she's serious and down for business. And that strong fashion, sharp-faced brand is something you can really apply to other things, so I'm rooting for her to do better in the following weeks and really be able to wake up. Tara is also in the bottom and is told that she had some humor, which I liked her little baby character. I thought it was funny. But it didn't really do anything, it just had one line. And is told that she didn't push herself enough, which I do agree with. She gave herself a role that had a lot of potential and then just said, "Is that a family?" And Perla is praised for basically everything. Her only challenge was to warm up her face in the future, maybe adding some blush or some color or something. And I'm appreciative that Brooke said that it did not apply to this week, because this was a specific look. But I do agree, Perla does need to warm up her face a little bit. I think it would add a little more life. And she rightfully wins the challenge and gets to save someone from being in the bottom. Xana sells herself really well, basically saying like, the two of them were in the bottom last week. They had the opportunity to wake up and prove themselves, and they didn't do that. I need to give more. And I'm willing to do that, and I'm willing to prove you next week that I'm listening. But they didn't. They had their opportunity. Don't punish me because they didn't listen. And Perla did kind of struggle between maybe putting Xana in the bottom, maybe knocking her out early because she's very passionate. And I think on the little devil on my shoulder side, I hear that. And I think, ooh, I could secure at least one more week for myself by keeping a weak player still in the game. Or you play more strategically and you don't put a target on your back on the very first week. Let's say that Perla put Xana in the bottom and Xana sends home Tiffany. And then Xana comes back even stronger thinking, you backstabbed me, I'm gunning for you now, and also I'm gonna remind the entire room that you're shady and shifty and we shouldn't trust you. That's the way that that could have easily played out next week, so I'm glad that Perla tried to be smart about the first one, because I think later down the road you can sort of play different and you can go, ooh, woo, I'm just a girl. I thought based off the critiques that you were the worst one. And so I'm so sorry that you're in the bottom. There's other ways to play that later on, but you don't need to do that first and be the very first one targeted. Not when you need to play that social game. The song is Fuck the Pain Away. Some people are not quite happy about the lip sync song. I don't understand what the problem is. Tiffany went in the more high energy, wild performance route. I found it to be a little bit messy and distracting. It was like, you don't have to throw everything out there. But then Tara tried to do this like sexy educator type of a poised performance. And I think it needed a little more humor to sell it, where at least Tiffany's energy was high. Overall, in my honest opinion, this was a pretty mid lip sync. However, next week is a lip sync slay off in 2 groups. So there's gonna be 2 groups of 5 and I cannot wait to see how this turns out. So I will see y'all later this week. I am so backed up on videos right now. If you haven't already heard, I got some pretty devastating news about my little cat. We're in end of life care right now, and so I've just been kind of processing information and having a hard time getting content worked on, but I'm gonna do my best to try and catch up and get where we need to be. But thank you for watching, and I will see y'all very soon later this week.